into oblivion. Check them out on linktree.com. Hey everyone, welcome to the Whosoever Group podcast. I'm your host, the Happy Crow, and with me I have my guest host from last week because our other host is out, and keep him in your prayers, everyone. But yes, I got my lovely wife, Mrs. Happy Crow. How you doing?
I'm wonderful. I'm not sure how I feel about Mrs. Happy Crow, though.
Well, you're married to me, so it could be a sad crow depending on the day. So I get it. So now we had a nice little heavy topic last week, and we're gonna have a little bit of it's a lighter topic, I guess you can say, but it's still a very, very important topic. And we're gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate, even though he does not need any help. Trust me. We're going to ask questions in a way that many other people have asked. And I want you as a listener to, if you are on the side of the questions, ponder the answers. And if you're already with the answers, make sure you're prepared to answer the questions. And this entirety of that I'm dancing around here, what am I talking about? Why do we need salvation? So we've talked about sin before. We've talked about who is God. We've talked about all that stuff. So we've laid the foundation for this. Now here is the apotheosis of that foundation. So let's talk about it. Why do I need salvation? Ready? Okay, Mrs. Happy Crow, go. If you guys would see her right now, her eyes went so big. Like I'd swear for a second she didn't have any eyelids. They were so that far back. She was not expecting it, and I planned it exactly that way, and it worked wonderfully.
Thanks, you big doof.
All right. So the first part of this is you ask the question, do I need to be a Christian to go to heaven? I've heard that. Like for me, I've done different types of ministry throughout my life. I'm not an old head. I like to hope I'm not an old head. I'm getting older though. Anyway, that's a separate topic.
He has a birthday coming up in a couple weeks.
Don't worry about said things. These are not important things.
February 5th.
The gray hairs on my head remind me every day. But so in my time, I've talked to many people, and I've had contact with a lot of non-Christians. I grew up in the church, but I work in the non-Christian environment, and I've just been around non-Christians a very large portion of my life. So I've heard every side of it. I've heard the church answers, and I've heard what the world says about it, and went back and forth on that. So I've heard this one a lot. Do I need to be a Christian to go to heaven? Because then the follow-up is, why do I have to believe you? What if I'm good enough? We'll get to that. But now this part is for the Christians out there. So, Carissa, as a Christian, do you need to be from your perspective, do you need to be a Christian to go to heaven?
Well, yeah.
She answered the question with a very confused yes. You want to know why? Because to us, it's obvious. The problem is a lot of people in the church stumble over this because they'll say, you should just talk to God or maybe pray about it. This is what I believe, and I think it's the right thing. Like, you should talk to God, you should pray, and you do believe it's the right thing, but guess what? It's just the truth. So if you are not a Christian, the flat answer is no. There is no other way but being a Christian.
Well, I think you have to back up and look at what does it mean to be a Christian? What does a Christian...
A Christ follower.
Right.
And I believe I said this before, but if I didn't, I'll say it now for the first time, which I think might have been before, but it might be again. Anyways.
Are you done arguing with yourself over there?
No, I'm fine. Shut up. No, yes, no. What? Anyway.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
You should hear when the voices really argue. Anyway. Now, where were we?
Christ follower.
Christ follower. There we go. So I'm pretty sure I said it. I said the Bible and Jesus never said pray a prayer and that's what's going to get you to heaven. No, it's not it. Jesus never said pray and then that's it. No, he said follow me. You follow Christ, and guess what? That is what he asked for. He asked for you to follow, because if you're not following him, you can say all you want that, oh, I'm a Christian, but if you're not following him, then that clearly makes a different statement. We're going to get into a lot more details of that as we go along, but the first part is the part I really want to hammer on. Yes, you have to be a Christian to go to heaven. That's it. Period. End of sentence. Well, I believe, nope, I'm sorry, I love you. You're wrong. Well, what about, no, you're wrong. It's okay, I love you, but no. So it's not something that you have to keep going back over and back to. Like, I don't want to keep revisiting as we go further on. And I'm not saying this to offend. It's not an offensive thing in any stretch of the imagination. It's just the truth. Christ gave us one way, and that's it. Okay, so the follow-up for that is, what about other religions? Do they have a way for me to get somewhere that I want to be in the next life? So that's the thing. It's a lot of times people say the next life. They're not necessarily saying like heaven. They're saying, well, I believe there's something out there, or I believe, well, there might be another life. Well, like, what about, like, you can say like Hinduism, or sorry, not Hinduism, Buddhism. Buddhism is about talking about reincarnation. Well, it seems like, if I live a good life, then I can be reincarnated. Here's a very interesting thought process I want you to ask yourself. We remember when we talked about sin before. If you guys have been listening to all of our episodes, because I'm sure you have. If you haven't been listening to our episodes, this is referencing the What is Sin episode. I do not remember the number. I am sorry. But
shame on you.
But when we talked about sin, we're saying, okay, now you say, if I'm a good person, and I can get reincarnated in the next life. Have you ever lied before? Okay. If you lie, that makes you a
liar.
Okay. Have you ever stolen something? Even as a child, have you stolen like a candy bar?
I stole a pack of balloons one time when I went shopping with my granny.
Heathen.
She took me back to the store, to the courtesy desk, with the security guard there. She called the store and was like, hey, let's ham it up.
Nice.
Because my uncle worked at the store as well, so she had connections.
Oh, geez.
Oh, man. I never stole again.
Were you crying and all that?
Oh, my word, yes.
See, I would have got that, and then I would have just, gotten beat right there. So I'm kidding. Kind of. So if you've stolen, that makes you a
thief.
Okay. Now, Jesus said to hate someone is pretty well the same as murder. Now, you might say, well, I don't agree with that. Well, whether you agree with it or not, it's irrelevant.
The Bible says.
It's irrelevant to this conversation, because we're going through the lens of what Jesus said. So if you want to argue that point, now you're arguing against Jesus as a deity, and that's a whole separate argument. So let's stick with this part of the argument and say, okay, so Jesus said if you hate, that's the same as murder. So right now, for most of us, we are lying, thieving murderers. At what point do you think, you know what? I've been pretty good. I think I'm going to reincarnate, Wait. Back up. So, if me, as a person, I physically go out there and hypothetically kill someone, and I live a fantastic life after that, and somebody catches me at some point, and then I go in front of a judge, and I go, well, look at the good I did. And it's undeniably proven that I killed somebody. Hypothetically. I don't know why somebody's going to take that out of context. But so hypothetically this happened. Do you think the judge is going to go, well, you know what? You did enough good in your life. You're fine. No, there's obviously a consequence for it. So no matter what you say, you can't be good enough. You can't be good enough to go to another plane of existence that's like better, because we as humans, we suck. I've said this every episode. Humans suck. We
What's
suck.
the Bible verse? Not by works alone.
Yeah, well, we'll get there. We're getting there.
Okay, I'm getting ahead of the game.
Calm down.
Sorry. Sit down.
Shut up. That's what my dad says all the time. Anyways.
Just to reiterate that he wasn't telling me to sit down and shut up.
That's very true.
I already am sitting.
No, she hasn't got the shut up part, but you know what? We're getting there. I'm kidding. Please talk. I love you. So, my point is your other face with Buddhism and reincarnation, the idea of that, even non-Buddhism reincarnation, to me, it doesn't make sense as human, because the best you can say, like the best way you could even make an argument to it, in my opinion, is like saying, well, an animal would reincarnate into like a higher intelligence life form or something like that, because he was a good dog or something like that. Because like animals are truly innocent. They're a product of their environment. They're not malicious. They're just good animals. But humans, on the other hand, we suck. So to try to make that,
you've said that about 3 times now.
yeah. So to make that comparison is just, I can see it only going one way, and so it's almost like human would be like the top of the food chain in that aspect, and then the only way to go is back down again. So it's just like endless cycle. So that, to me, that just doesn't work. And once again, the Bible has something very different to say about that. So next thing we go, what if I live a good life?
What if?
Huh?
What if you don't?
Yeah. And not only that, a lot of people who I've talked to personally, they say, well, I live a good life. And in reality land, they are. We just talked about the lying, thieving, murdering people that we are. But you can live a decent life. And I've heard this argument from philosophers going, well, do you need religion to be a good person? No, you really don't. But what is the one thing the Bible says in, I believe, Song of Solomon? Humanity at its best is nothing but vanity.
I think you're right on that reference.
If you're doing the best you can as a person to be a good person, then trying to live a good life, you're essentially doing it for you. Which is, once again, it's not that you're doing it with bad motives or bad intentions. I'm not trying to put that down at all. I'm just pointing out the fact that it's still for you. So your best is now just vanity. So you living a good life, to me, I just look at it as like, your good life is just not going to be good enough. None of us can measure up. It's every step of the way we fail. Every way. And so the next one is, what if I went to church my whole life? This one I'm going to flip around a little bit, because this one I'm actually not going to talk to the person with the question on this. I'm going to talk to the believer on this one. Here's why. If someone has went to church their whole life and does not understand that you need Christ to be saved, I'm sorry, church. You failed. 100% you failed church for that person. It's the person's individual decision, but you failed. The reason I'm saying that is because anyone who is teaching the Word of God, the gospel, the saving message of Christ should be constantly on their lips and on their hearts. And if you've been to church your whole life, and you as the person, now switching tenses here, and you've never understood that, I'm sorry that you have been failed by other people, by other Christians.
Well, I have a question about that. If you haven't understood, then let's just paint the picture here.
Mm-hmm.
Hypothetically, then why haven't you sought counsel from your church to further understand what is being taught? That's also, I feel, a personal choice. Whether you want to have a deeper understanding of something that you don't know.
I can see that for the theology of many things, but the basic salvation message that the only way to heaven is Christ, that is the core of it all. And if that is not understood, what is the
But you
church
also
teaching
have
at that
personal
point?
responsibility to make sure that you're understanding that.
I'm not taking all the blame to the church. I'm just ashamed of the church in this. Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying, but I also feel like you're kind of being unjust to the church.
As I think I get where you're going with it. You're saying that you want to point out that the church does have its responsibility, but also the individual makes their choice, which I do fully agree with.
Right.
I just can't picture anyone going through their life in church, because I've seen it. People go through their life going to church, and they're like, "Well, I go to church, so yeah, I think I'm good." What? No, you never heard anyone tell you in church that Jesus is the only way?
Right. I
Now,
get
if you
that.
don't,
I'm
now,
not saying that.
if you don't understand that, or you haven't accepted that, then that's on you as the individual. But if they never heard that,
right, I'm not saying
that's
that.
like, whoa.
You're just like the way you're bringing it to the table. You're kind of like making it sound like the church as a whole, like all churches everywhere.
No. I should have specified that. I get that. So the specification of that is anyone who is in that situation. I am saying I'm sorry because your church has failed you to that individual.
There's definitely churches that are dry, meaning that they're not giving.
And we sit here and learn about the parable of the shepherd. The good shepherd watches his sheep. Okay, kneel down and pray. See you next week. So I got a lot from that one today. I learned so much. If you didn't hear the sarcasm in that. But my point
I think my point, what I'm trying to say is that, yes, there are and can be churches that are not fulfilling the gospel aspect and teaching the message, or let me rephrase that, teaching the salvation message. There we go. But I just wanted to make sure that you were covering, like, you weren't grouping.
Yeah, I got you.
Churches as a whole. Just
see, this
there
is why
are some.
This is why I need a co-host, because I know what I'm thinking,
and I know what you're thinking,
but it always doesn't come out that right way. This is why when I write things, it's very clear, because I can sit there and go over it again with my writing. But when I talk, I need a co-host. So we have the, what if you've been in church your whole life? So the flat answer for that is no. If you've been in church your whole life, that's the same as washing your hands your whole life. Yes, you have clean hands, but doesn't mean you took a shower. If you're not, you can have nice clean hands and a not clean bum. It doesn't, it doesn't work that way. So no, God said a lot more than that. It's not just, pray. It's not just all that. So next one is, this one is,
I've heard this one a lot.
Yes. For me, this is very personally frustrating, and I'm going to get it on to a bunny trail on this one. I know it, but...
Well, I'm going to cut you off if you go down too deep.
Okay.
We're not going to Wonderland.
What if I was baptized as a baby? Or the other end of this. Well, I was dedicated as a kid. Dedicated to God means your parents turned over their ownership of you. You are not theirs anymore. They are just going to be your stewards, and they are giving you to God. Which is
never really theirs to begin with.
Yes. So it's not even
physically.
It's not even like a. It's not even. It's just more of a showing to you as a human what is actually reality in the spiritual world.
Kind of like taking this loosely. Hannah, when she gave back her son.
Yes.
To the temple.
What my wife is referencing is a woman named Hannah in the Bible in the Old Testament in 1 Samuel. She was barren, not able to have children. There was a bunch of problems between her and her husband's other wife, which was a whole other set of issues. We're not going down that bunny trail. That's a long bunny trail.
Anyway, she was crying out into.
I was getting there.
Like, you're going down your bunny trail. Let's get back to it.
So
I like this Bible story.
She was wanting. She wanted a child so bad. She was praying and crying, and then she said, "God, if you give me a child, I'm giving him back to you." She literally did that, not just like emotionally. She physically gave the child to the church.
When he was 2?
I don't remember the
Somewhere
age.
around there?
Yeah, I don't remember the age. But what I'm not advocating for any parent out there to go, you know what? I'm going to give my kid to the church and drop him off on a doorstep. No, that is not what we're saying here. Dedication is, especially now, is talking about dedicating your life and just saying, it's not my life, it's yours. I'm going to live it, but I'm going to live it for you. Nothing to do with me, everything to do with you.
So when you're dedicating your baby, you're dedicating them
to God,
Lord.
To God, and relinquishing your ownership and saying, God, I'm giving the ownership back to you, even though it always was yours. I'm recognizing what I'm doing. So now, the other one is to baptize as a baby. Here's the fun part. Baptism, the word baptize means to fully submerge. And it's to go under. And the Bible, throughout the entirety of when baptism was happening, was exclusively for adults. It was not for children. It was, or sorry, not for children, not for babies, infants, I should say. Yeah. It was for people who are of age to understand what their decision was. Right. And actually, still in other countries, and right now, if you say you're a Christian, they're gonna people. This is more of a Middle Eastern issue. You can say like you're a Christian. Some communities you're gonna get side-eyed, but the second you get baptized, now they're out for blood.
Why is that?
Because now because you made an outward showing of your inward change is what a baptism actually is. It's physically showing what you have done in your decision that you have made. So to baptize a baby is what you're doing actually is watering your child and making him or her cry. It's about it. It's not actually doing anything. And that's where my frustration comes in, because somehow this goes specifically for the Catholic Church. They have somehow missed this and turned this into this. Well, you were baptized and dedicated as a baby, so as long as you follow God, you're good. No, you have to make the decision. I don't care if you had some water sprinkled on you. I can go get a squirt bottle and spray it on you now, but it doesn't mean you made a decision. The actual act of going underwater and all that, none of that is required for salvation. That is
just an outward declaration of what you said, an inward decision that you've made.
Yeah, so it's not like God's going to say, well, you know what? You accepted me. You followed me your whole life. You know what? I never saw you go underwater by the pastor, so you know what? You're out of heaven. No, that's not what God's going to do. That is nothing of the Bible.
Just clarify, so you don't need to be baptized. It's not a requirement to be a Christian. No, the only requirement to be a Christian is follow me, is what Christ said. Yeah.
When you follow him, that means you've accepted him. When you've accepted him, you're following him, and your life is that of him. So the baptism is just the outward showing of it. And does the Bible promote it? Yes. Why? Because our lives are supposed to show Christ, and if we're not showing Christ, we're messing up.
I just wanted to ask that because I've had that question asked to me. Like, was my salvation not complete because I didn't get baptized?
Salvation is complete the moment you accept him and follow him. That is the moment of your salvation. So once again, if you were baptized as a baby, that's nice. You got sprinkled. That has nothing to do with anything of reality. And so,
and also, if you got dedicated, that wasn't your parents praying for your salvation, to happen right there in that moment.
No one can give you salvation except for yourself, and that's part of God's love. This wasn't on the topic, but that's a very good point. I like what you said. Say it one more time.
What did I say?
About your parents. Your parents
getting dedicated was not your parents asking for salvation for you.
Yes, because
I'm not understanding why I'm repeating that, but I guess I will in a minute.
Because God gave us salvation. God gave us a path back to Him.
Mm-hmm.
And He said, only you can walk it. But I want it to be your choice. I want to make sure that no one else can do this but you, because you shouldn't be forced to do anything. And if you're going to, I want you to love me for me. The same way, if you're a parent out there, you're going to want your child to love you, not just because you told them to love you. You just want their heart. And now this, I could see my wife's face right now. I know you guys can't. I'm sorry. Hey, the video wasn't working. We had an iPhone and a regular phone, and I hate iPhones because they don't like me.
He doesn't like my phone, and I don't know enough about iPhones.
Storm is my technologically savvy guy, and unfortunately, he has been out. So,
Come back.
baby, come back. No, but the your experience with God, He wants you. When I saw her face when I said that, I know there's a reason. Now, I want to give this message out to anyone who's ever experienced anything with adoption. Sometimes when adoption happens with children, they reject the parents. The parents have done everything they can to love and do the best they can, but they hardcore reject them. And the parents' heart's desire is for just the child just to love them back. They're like, you look at the child and say, please love me. I love you so much. I just want you to love me. That is a representation of what God does for us. We constantly reject Him every time we sin, every time we have pushed Him away. Whenever we've walked down a path and He's screaming, don't go that way, and we've walked away, He's like, just love me. I know what's best for you. Please don't do it. We've rejected Him over and over and over throughout history. But He said, I'm still going to give you the choice. Only you. Not no one else, and no one can do it for you, because I want you to do it for you. If you don't want to, okay, it's going to break my heart, but I love you enough to say it's up to you. So that. I just wanted to bring that one up. So we went through those. Now what's the next one? Okay.
I
Okay.
just want to interject before you go to the next one. When you were talking about other religions and what if I lived a good life, that's not, kind of repeating here, but it's not what it's about. It's not even about religion. It's having a relationship with God when you're talking about salvation. Like, a lot of times people think they have to follow this, correct me if I'm wrong, certain denomination that if I do this on Sunday and I repeat this prayer and I do this in my church and I do that in my church, that's my ticket to salvation. No, that's not what it is. Salvation is asking Christ to come live in your heart. You want to live your life for Him. You want to follow what His Word says. You want to be a Christ follower. But it's not this religion where you have to earn your way for your salvation. It's having that personal relationship with Him.
That's a very good point with the earning your way. So let me explain why that's important. You try to do the best you can to get into heaven. When Jesus died, He did that. He took everything, past, present, future. He said, I'm taking the blame for it all. What you're doing in the moment that you're trying to earn it is saying, you didn't do good enough, God. You're not intentionally doing that. But it's inadvertently saying, God, you didn't do good enough. I want to do it because I think I can do better. And it's coming from a place, though, of trying to do the right thing. But the problem is, we're not good enough to do that. We never have been, we never will be.
And it also comes from a place of humility. And when I say humility, I'm not saying, like, coming from a place of being ashamed. It's humbling yourself, saying, I am perfectly imperfect, and I need God who is perfect in every way in my life.
What it's doing is just surrendering to him, that you understand that you can't be good enough. You're not good enough. You're never going to be good enough. And you can't, you failed. And God goes, okay, you can't do it. I get it. That's why I'm doing it for you, because I love you. I know you can't. I'm here for you. I love you that much that I am going to do it for you. No matter how far you push away, I'm going to lay out the path for you to walk back. It's your choice to walk it, though.
And I think I had said last week, I may have said it, I don't remember. I know I thought it, I'm not sure if I spoke it. Anyway, God doesn't want us perfect. He wants our broken pieces so that we can be made perfect in his image.
Because our version of a life put together isn't always God's version. Our life put together is what we want. And God goes, I got totally different plans for you. Throw all that away. So yes, you're correct. So next one we have is, what if I've had many spiritual experiences? There's so much with this to get into. We can't get into all of it, but part of it is you have the New Age spiritual movement, which is if you're, if you feel your energy is connected, you're doing the right thing, you're setting up your energy to link with other people, you want to give off good vibes and all that. And there's, of course, then you get into things with crystals and all that jazz, and chakras and all that. So there's so much to all that stuff, and or like, well, I felt this spirit push me to do this, or I felt I've talked to my grandmother, and she's been dead for 10 years, but I know she wanted me to do this. Okay, listen, I can't. There's a lot of things I can't. There's more explanation things where we don't have time for everything, but the long and the short of it is.
But stick around; it'll
I'm
be
sure.
up and coming in the future.
I'm sure it's going to come out in some point in time. But there's so much of that different stuff that it's not God. There's a decent amount of it that's just flat out deceit, and other things are things to make you feel good. One thing I've noticed with people, now this is my observation, this is my own bias to this, so if anyone else has had a different experience, okay. A lot of people who are into like the putting out good energy and vibes and all that, and I just want to be one with everything. I'm not trying to think about any of that religion or any of that stuff like that. I've noticed, now this is once again my bias, that I've seen those are the people a lot of times who are very on the edge, that if you rock their boat a little bit, they lose their ever-loving mind.
Don't rock the boat, baby.
Tip the boat over. Anyway, so you're telling me you're spiritually centered, but your foundation gets a little bit pushed, and then everything falls apart. That, I don't know. You can try to give me a good explanation, but unfortunately, I don't see it ending well. So that's that one. Now, here's the one I love. You believe in God? You'll always say, well, my co-host is stepping out of the room for a minute. You can say that you believe in God. A lot of people have said, like, well, yeah, I believe in God. And I've heard that from many, many different people. They're just, well, yeah, God's out there. I know that. Or it won't even be God so much. Sometimes it's just like, I know there's something out there, man. There's something. I don't know what it is, but yeah, okay, I get what you're trying to say here, that you believe that there's something out there. I want to read James 2:19. You believe that there is one God. Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. Let me put that into modern day terms. You believe that there's God? Good. Because there is. Everyone knows this. So your belief in God as a creation, as not a creation, as a So, as an entity, there we go. Your belief in God as an entity, that is a basic concept. People have believed in a higher power, quote unquote, for millennia. That's been around. That's not something that's new under the sun. That's been around. Whether they believed in a in a law in like the sun god, or whether they believe they everyone believed in all the religion that there was some form of a god out there, and they believe that with every single generation. So this is a new way of thinking that, okay, there's not a God, but your spiritual enlightenment is believing that there is a God. It's like we went backwards, and somehow that became the new norm, and now we're coming back to, well, I believe in God. Yes, even the demons do. So that's nothing impressive. And I'm not saying that to be like derogatory. I'm saying you have to go deeper. You can't just leave it there and say, okay, this is good enough. I believe in God. There's so much more to it. So now we're going to get into a couple different verses here. Ephesians 2:8-9. For it is by grace that you have been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves. It is a gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. So we talked about this a little bit. Now I wanted to give the context to it. It's by grace you've been saved. By grace. You can't earn it. That song was, I couldn't earn it. I don't deserve it, but yet you give yourself away.
You're referring to reckless love.
Yes. And okay, and Christians out there who want to beat me up for the, well, that's biblically incorrect. Calm down. Okay, just calm down. We'll have that argument later.
As our child says, calm down, breathe.
But for it is by grace you have been saved. What is that grace? What is it? So I should say, what is the definition of grace? If my kid does something wrong, and he knows he did wrong, he knows he got caught. I know he got caught because I was the one who caught him. And then I look at him, and he's getting ready. He knows, like, oh no, here it comes. And I said, I look at him, in some way, shape, or form, I just kind of let it go. That's grace. That's not something that's given because you're good enough or something like that. No. It's you messed up, so you deserve it, but you're not going to get it what you deserve. That's the definition of grace. So, and that's God, because God gave us grace abounding through everything, because we all suck, and that's why we need God. So, and it's not of yourselves, not by works, so that no one can boast. That part is very important, because here's the reality: for you want to be a good person, and you want to.
Oh, I know where you're going with this one.
you want to be a good person. After a while, you get to the point of pride, saying, "I'm a good person. I've done no good things. Why shouldn't I get into heaven? Why shouldn't I earn this? Why?" Well, your good works aren't enough. Whether you cross that line, because God's line is perfection, whether you cross that line by an inch or by 10 miles, you're over the line. So you're doing the best you can and all that. It comes down to pride, because then you want to be the hero of your own story. It's not about you. It's about God. It always has been. And we as humans are bent towards that. We're bent towards wanting to be the hero of our own story. And God wants to use the unimaginably horrible odds, because then that shows off who he is. Example of that would be Gideon. Gideon, he had, and the Bible talks about the invasion of one country into the Israelite country, thousands and thousands of soldiers, and then, I say hundreds of thousands of soldiers against a couple thousand of the Israelites. As this happened, God's like, no, you got too many. Logically, they're like, okay, if we plan the right strategy, and maybe we can pull this off, there's a chance. It's a small chance, but you're saying there's a chance. So that happened, and then God's like, no, not enough. Cut it down more. Most of them were gone. and you have barely any left, and you're like, nope, still too many. God's saying, he goes, I want it to be you to know that it was impossible except because of me. There's no other way but me. And that's what God's saying right here again. By grace you've been saved. Faith that's not, but through grace it's not of yourselves. It's a gift of God. Has nothing to do with you, everything to do with him.
All right, I have a question.
Yes.
Are you going to finish Gideon's story?
Well, they won in the end, obviously, or else we wouldn't have the Bible.
How did they win? Because it was pretty awesome. They used trickery.
Well, not only that, God also confused the hearts, and so then the hearts and minds of his enemies, so they wound up stabbing each other in a frenzy. If you want to watch that happen, just watch any crazy stampede of people, and people just go nuts on each other. So yeah.
No, but I think it was cool. They used what they had. They used
trumpets, pottery, and torches.
Yep, and they made it sound like multitudes and multitudes of men.
I'm 100% sure that it was not them. I'm pretty sure God turned up his amplifier.
Happy Crow. I obviously know that. I'm just saying. It's pretty awesome how God used so little, but made it appear to be so many.
Like God used one man.
Only a boy named David.
No.
Only a little sling.
No, God used one man to save the entire world, and that man was himself. Boom. Mind blown. Anyways, okay, next verse. Go ahead.
Romans chapter 10, verses 9 through 10. That if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you confess and are saved.
So confess with your heart. So that's where a lot of people get the prayer part of salvation. Once again, it's not wrong. So you're praying, you're asking for salvation. You're saying, God, you're confessing, and God's saying, I'm sorry. I know who I am inside, and it's not good enough, and I'm sorry, and I want to be with you. So I believe in you. I believe in what you said. I believe in what the Bible says when he says that your son died. You let yourself be my punishment that I deserve, and I accept that, and I thank you for that gift.
Could you touch on this question that some people may have or may not have, but maybe there are a few? You're saying you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that he raised him from the dead, you'll be saved. How does that correlate with what we talked about last week about dying to self daily? Do you have to ask for salvation daily?
Very good question. Simple answer is no. Once you are following Christ, you are following Christ. What you're doing when you die to yourself daily is every day you have two natures in you. You have God in you who is with you, and but the thing is, once again, you have to accept him. Accept what he's doing also in you. So your bodily, your human nature of anger, strife, like all the different stuff, it's going to come up and try to rear its ugly head on a daily basis. So you're every day you're putting that down and saying, I don't want that, I want God. So it's a daily fight. But it's a fight that in the end, you know you have won. So does that clarify that?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
All right. So to end with this, James 2:18. But someone will say, you have faith and I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. Here's why I'm reading this verse. I have heard this so many times. My relationship with God is very personal, and I just don't like to talk about it. What? Jesus' whole mission is saying, go out and preach the gospel.
Okay, I have a question about that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Isn't there a verse in the Bible that says about going to your closet to pray and don't make known what you do in private to the public. I'm paraphrasing
Yes.
that, but
What that's specifically referencing is you're doing a good deed. And then when you do your good deed, going out there and then going, hey, everybody, social media. Here's the best example of that one. Okay. I can't stand it. And when you go on social media and say, look, I'm giving this homeless guy $30 and I'm going to give him a haircut. Oh, see, this is the charity that I like to do. No, you wanted to feel good and get clicks is what you did. If you do something for somebody, that's what it's talking about. Just do it. Be Christ. And if someone asks you about
be humble about it.
Yes, if someone asks you about your faith, the Bible's not telling you to not express your faith and it's just you and God only. No. He's saying what you're doing is not for you and don't make it about you.
You're doing it for God.
Mm-hmm. So show me your faith without deeds. So a lot of times that's where a decent amount of the Christian world is. It's faith without deeds. You're saying, I'm gonna pray and go to church, go to work and come home, and that's it. What have you done for God? Because and this is not a guilt trip. This is more like a question that you have to ask yourself, like, where's your passion and desire? Because here's the reality. We started all this talking about salvation. Salvation, the Bible says, is going to be not a lot of people, statistically. Narrow is the way that goes to heaven, broad is the one that goes to destruction. Why?
Good question. I was just going to ask you that.
Because a lot of people just aren't going to choose. And part of that is we as Christians, our burning desire should be being Christ every day to people. Like, not that we are Christ, but we are acting as
to be Christ-like.
Christ ambassadors every day in your word, in your deed, in who you are, who you talk to, all that. Because if we're not, go to your job. Unless you're working at a church. And even if you are working at a church, there's still a decent chance. Just let's say you're in front of a crowd of 50 people. Statistically, probably 48 of them are going to hell. That's terrifying. Or the fact that you're afraid of anything happening to you or anything. No, it's like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see anyone that I know. I've had this conversation with people in my work. They're like, well, you believe that. Yes, I do. And I don't want that fate to happen to you. Well, that's what you say. No. This is truth. It's your choice to accept it. And my urgency in what I say comes from the fact that I don't want to see you one day, as we talked about last week, as the rich man, well, could you at least dip your finger in some water just so I can get a tiny bit of relief? I don't want my heart to break like that, because my heart breaks just thinking about that. That's not what I want for anyone. And that's what every Christian's heart's desire should be burning, saying, we want to get out there because the world is on fire, and then after that, their souls are going to be on fire, and I don't want to see that.
The Bible commands us to go ye into all the world. Carry the light.
Yeah. Unfortunately, even in the early church, we get very comfortable where we are because we want to do right here and, well, I'm going to go to church and do it. And then as soon as pressure happens, real pressure, like persecution pressure, that's when you see the people who never really believed, because they just fall off real quick. Those, the Bible talks, the parable of the sower, those are the ones who sprung up real quick but didn't have any root. And then the rest of them who stay grow. And what happened in the early church, they scattered everywhere. And that's when the church grew. The beginning of the church was in Jerusalem. And Jesus said, go into all the world. They went into Jerusalem and stayed there. And then once persecution happened, that's when they started traveling. We get too comfortable. And I don't want that to be America's fate.
He wants us to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. I don't like that. Why do you have to be uncomfortable?
Because being uncomfortable means work.
not only that, it's because when we're comfortable, then we forget about them. In all honesty,
we're stagnant.
yeah, we get lazy. So,
Trust me, I know this. This is uncomfortable. Me being on this show. This is not my forte. Not because I don't want to do it. I don't, but not in this.
I'm not contradicting myself at all in that statement. Jeez.
I do and I don't, because sometimes I feel like I'm not good enough to be used.
And you're not. And neither am I. And that's the beauty of Jesus.
Yes, I know. And that's when I said, all right, that's enough. God can use me, so here I am.
So our faith is going to be shown by our deeds. Now, what you do does not equal your faith. Well, that goes back to earning it. You're not going to earn it by the more good you do, and it doesn't give you higher standing with God. And God wants your heart, not your works. But your heart is going to manifest itself in your works, what you do.
Yes.
You can talk to a lot of people, and hopefully they would say, oh, I know who's a Christian because I can see their heart. What does that mean? That means what they do is a reflection of who they are inside, and who they are inside is somebody who's following God. And that's who we need to be as Christians. So I think that's about it. Do you have any final thoughts?
I do not.
So we're going to...
Probably will once we end it.
Of course.
But, that's how things usually go.
So we're going to end it with telling everybody that you're loved. You need salvation. It's a choice that only you can make. No one can make it for you. And don't sprinkle your kids because you're just getting them wet. I mean, if it makes you feel better, fine. Just don't do nothing. But and you need it, and everyone else around you need it. And walk in, if you do believe, walk in that like knowing that you need it, and everyone does, because it's all going down. So why don't we save as many people as we can? Not that it's us doing it, it's God, but God is also asking for us to be open and willing. So be open, be willing, and I guess that's it.
And for our maybe first-time listeners or continued listeners who are not saved and have questions about salvation, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We will not judge you.
Facebook.com/whosoevergrew, Twitter @whosoevergrew, and our website whosoevergroup.com, and you have a contact us button on the website. So, boom, info drop.
Are you done?
I think so.
All right. Well, you all have a good week, and we're praying for you. And we look forward to
seeing you next week.
I don't know about seeing.
Oh.
Invading your ears.
Invading your ears, or if we get another camera to not fight with an iPhone. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.